you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by my good friend Khalid Muhammad from CommandEleven on the other side of the planet in Pakistan, but repatriating back home to the U.S. in the imminent near future. Can't tell you exactly when because that's classified information. I don't want to blow Double Eight's cover on this one. So we haven't been broadcasting on Sundays for quite a while, but Khalid and I spoke yesterday and decided that there's been so much going on with regards to terrorism that we needed an extra episode this week to kind of get caught up from a situation report perspective. Then we end up with this shooting today in Grand Blanc, Michigan, which is close to where Khalid grew up. So this is how tonight's episode is going to go down. We're going to cover the conflicted question. We're going to jump into the Grand Blanc shooting in Michigan at the Church of Latter-day Saints. Then we're going to hit the terrorism SITREP. We've got a ton of information in that. And it all ties back to the 9/11 2.0 Long War series that we broadcast every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So without any more ado here, let's pull up the conflicted question of the day. Conflictedthegame.com. These are 14 different card games set in post-apocalyptic scenarios where 99% of the questions have some element of morality to them. So here we go. And by the way, we want to see your answers for these in the live chat, and we'll answer this question at the end of this episode. The airplane you stole lost 30% of its power in midair, and it's about to crash. Your only hope is to make the small aircraft lighter. You and your 6 buddies have 5 minutes to decide who to dump out. Fuel and supplies have been dumped already. 2 of you need to go in order to make the airplane stable, but there are no parachutes. The 2 who need to leave the plane will suffer an excruciating fall to their deaths. How would you handle this situation and why? Ooh.
Oh, this is a fun one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say the fat guys go first, because you get the most juice for the squeeze. Yep. But we'll answer it properly at the end of this episode. Again, we want to see what your thoughts are as well. So actually, a couple quick announcements, by the way, that I want to just mention before we dive into this. Carnivault are now shipping the single serve packets. So you can buy a box of 12 for $79. And inside of that, there are 12 single servings. And you can get them, this is for the steak, obviously, but you can get them for the chicken and pork as well. When you buy from Carnivault, we don't get any affiliate income. They give us a stipend that helps us defer expenses. But if you use the code EATMEAT, all one word, you get 10% off. And if your order is $99 or above, you get free shipping as well. People have been begging for these single serves. So, for example, hunting, fishing, overlanding, hiking, whatever takes you off the grid, these single serves weigh next to nothing. You reconstitute them in water in 5 to 10 minutes. You cook them up, and it's fresh raw meat when you reconstitute it. It's an amazing product. Nobody else has it out there. So I want to make sure we give a good plug for them. Also, Dr. Michael Fabian and I today recorded a fairly lengthy video on every comms option you can think of, with the exception of shortwave high frequency, which are the only consumer radios that will bounce off the ionosphere and go around the world. But we've done a bunch of testing with these POC-Link POC-1 Ultras. Here's one here. These are GMRS/FRS radios, but they also take a SIM card and connect to the LTE network. So you can put a bunch of people into a group and simultaneously message them. You can have as many groups as you want. So speaking of which, I'm going to make a formal announcement here. For everybody who's bought these or buys them going forward, we're going to create a Guardians group on here where you will hear the very first words from us if and when the shit hits the fan. So here's the deal. 2 of these, $1,140 plus $29 to $65 a year. But as you can see on screen, if you buy them right now, 2 radios for $399, and you never pay a penny for the LTE access. So there's a link in the description if you're on YouTube. I'm not sure if it went to Rumble. It's also on our Substack, though. Go to survivaldispatch.news, click on the SITREP. There's a link. And again, $399, no annual fees. We tested these 50 miles away, and they work flawlessly, but also because they have built-in GMRS functionality or FRS functionality, you could put one of these in your truck at the head of a trail and walk in a couple miles. You don't even have to have another one of these. In other words, you don't have to have both of these. You leave one of them sitting in your truck as a relay, and you take your regular higher powered GMRS radios. We tested this. And so you're on a regular GMRS radio. It hits the relay on that in your truck and sends it out over the LTE network. Pretty select as far as extending your footprint is concerned. All right. All of that out of the way. Let's jump in right away to the Grand Blanc shooting today. And this is from American Kinetics. These guys are very, very thorough. So I probably won't read the whole thing because it's very, very thorough, but I'll give you the gist of it, and then Clede's going to comment on it as well. So initial intelligence assessment of the shooting and fire at a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints meeting house in Grand Blanc Township, Michigan. Facts to date, working judgments on threat motive, and near-term courses of action for security leaders. So the bottom line up front, and this is where I'm going to end it after the bluff, and it was a 40-year-old male, we know for sure, so it's not 40-ish male, drove a vehicle into an LDS church during Sunday service, opened fire in the building, burned. Police say the suspect is deceased. There's no ongoing public threat. Early tallies indicate 1 victim killed, 9 injured, plus the suspect deceased. Figures may change as the scene is cleared. FBI and ATF responded alongside local authorities. A press briefing and victims' updates are pending. Tactics indicate a single actor, high casualty intent, vehicle breach, gunfire, arson. Motive remains unknown. Circulating claims of a coordinated attack or an IED recovered in the vehicle are unconfirmed by primary reporting. Treat as rumor until law enforcement confirms. Senior officials publicly acknowledged the incident. Governor Whitmer issued condolences. So a couple other things, Khalid, that I gleaned on this before we went on air. It looks like the guy, the perp, has donated money to Act Blue, is not a registered Republican. So Michigan being a closed primary, if he was a Trumper, he'd probably be, registered as a Republican. So there's also reports that there was a sign on his fence that said something like "Stop Trump." So the left is trying to portray this guy as MAGA, and it looks like in reality that that's not the case. It's another lunatic from the left. It's like 99.9999% of the time it's a lunatic on the left. But that's the high level stuff as far as what we know. Now, you grew up in that neck of the woods, Khalid.
Yep.
And even when you were younger, not exactly the safest place in the country to be.
No. I grew up about 2 hours away from Grand Blanc. I'm not going to say exactly where, but I grew up about 2 hours away from Grand Blanc. Back in my time, everyone had a weapon because Grand Blanc is very close to Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan is just like Detroit, gang central. You could not drive through Flint without a weapon. It was just not possible. Flint has gotten much worse. Detroit has cleaned up a little bit, but the main city of Detroit is still heavy with gangs. What we understand about this shooter is he was from Burton, Michigan, which is about 15 to 18 miles away. Last night, there was a bomb threat at the Meyer grocery store, which people are trying to figure out if these two are connected or not, whether the bomb threat to the grocery store was also this guy or not. We understand that from his license plate, he had a vet. He was a vet from a foreign war. On the plate, it said Iraq, so we're assuming that he was part of the Iraq War. We don't know the whole story yet. We don't know how many people were inside the church when the fire started. So the number of injured or dead could go up very high because the entire church was destroyed. I was watching the video most of the afternoon. The church there was nothing left. I mean, when you looked at it, the whole church was gone. We saw drone video. We saw all kinds of stuff. The shooter grew up Mormon. So that may be part of the reason why he attacked the Latter-day Saints church. We don't know the whole story. We did see a post from his mother's Facebook account, which put a lot of things into place where he seems like he was someone that had a lot of mental disorders, because the mom was saying that I don't have to give up my peace to listen to your garbage, to listen to your threats, your anger. And this was posted 3 days ago. So right now we're waiting. There's been a couple names floated around. The Michigan State Police did a breach on what they believe to be the shooter's house. There was an IED in the car, in the truck that he drove in, and because of that, the bomb squad was called out when it came to breaching his house because they were worried that he may have booby trapped the house. The father has the same name as the shooter, so we had a lot of trouble figuring out who owned the property. It's a very small house in Burton, Michigan. The police surrounded it within probably half hour of the shooter going down. But
Actually, sorry to interrupt, Khalid, but I was watching the local news from Grand Blanc. They said 2 officers responded within 33 seconds.
Yep.
I suspect they were probably church members. That hasn't been announced yet, but they took control of the situation very quickly. They didn't do an Uvalde and stick around with their thumb up their ass and ignore the problem. They jumped
had him
into the
down
fray. Yeah,
They
so
had him down.
kudos to them. But that, I don't know how long after that before the next squad arrived. But
well, here's what we don't understand, because they had the shooter's body outside. They had we saw a picture with the shooter's body outside. He was covered in a white cloth, and there was 2 cops standing next to him. So we're trying to figure out how the fire started inside. If he was shot in, if he was brought outside, how did the fire start inside? There were a lot of people that said that something blew up inside. There was a lot of reports of something blowing up inside. The bomb squad was working on an IED in the vehicle. That was the initial report that we got, was that there was an IED in the vehicle as well, which doesn't surprise us. If he's a war vet and he was in Iraq, then he understands how to put together an IED. The second thing is this is now the second in 2 days shooting that's veteran related. The shooting yesterday on the ship, on the boat, was also a vet, but he turned himself into the police as soon as he was done firing. Walked right up to the pier and turned himself in. So we're not sure if this is PTSD. We're not sure if this is a TBI, but this is the second shooting in 2 days that involves a vet. And then we had the ramming this in New York City, where an off-duty agent's car was rammed by somebody in New York. And that story is still evolving.
Right. So a great comment on the part of Patriot, we under siege. It seems like they want Christians to be afraid to go to church, 100%. And we'll speak a little bit more of that as we go. But thank you for our Lyle Smith, by the way, for pointing out they were township and DNR, the 2 cops. And then Jason made a comment that LDS only allows off-duty police to carry during services. So I think there's probably a pretty strong indication that the 2 officers were LDS members and they were at the church to respond within 33 seconds. I don't know how else, that could
be. Unless they had some kind of a warning beforehand to respond that quickly. That's, there's not a police force in the US that responds that quick.
Yeah, it doesn't sound reasonable. I do want to mention, Khalid, as I mentioned to you before we went live. So I had Grand Blanc Fox channel playing over here, right? And all of a sudden, I'm listening to these 2 anchors. They look like they were straight out of, what was the guy, the wax museum in St. Augustine? It's famous. I can't remember. It's escaping my memory. They look like wax people. They literally look like wax people. Yeah. Anyway, what a pair of arseholes. Yeah. So they're sitting there saying, well, this goes to prove that it doesn't matter how much you prep or how secure you think you are, there's nothing that you can do to mitigate the risk, and they will kill you like that. I'm like, you should probably talk to my buddy Keith Graves, who specializes in church security, before you run your mouth like that. I mean, many of the churches that Keith has secured have bollards all over the place. You're not driving, a vehicle through that and into the front of a church or anything along those lines. Not to mention the fact that his teams and his 4 campuses, there's a 72-year-old lady, and she's going to kill you DRT right there. He says she's the best of them all, and there's some pretty good guys. So interesting stuff. But Khalid, the legacy media, doesn't matter what you do, they will kill you. Golly, you ever heard of target hardening?
No, I did. I remember when before we went on air, I was telling you this. When I was growing up, everyone had a weapon. And I've been to churches in the U.S. when I was still there, and there was a security team even before these threats existed. Every church had a security team, because you never know what kind of a lunatic may walk through the door and have a weapon and start shooting. But for anchors to say that there's nothing you can do, that's defeatism. That's defeatism right there.
It's bullshit. It's downright lying. I mean, target hardening is a proven concept that works. The bad guy looks at your house, he's casing your house, he sees security cameras, he sees dogs or beware of dogs, he sees good lighting, all of these things, no landscaping that he can hide behind in the front of the house, so on and so forth. Then he looks at the neighbor. The neighbor has no visible security cameras, no visible security system, doesn't have any dogs, has all kinds of things that you could potentially hide in as you work your way up to the front of the house. The bad guy's going to hit the easy target. This, it's not rocket science, but I was pretty surprised when I heard those 2 anchors say that. I thought to myself, man, you guys need to be fired. But anyway, moving along to the next one here. So the shooter at a Michigan church has been identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, a 40-year-old U.S. Marine veteran. He donated to the Democrat campaign on multiple occasions. So I've got that pulled up here. These are all donations that he made to Act Blue, essentially. 192. So I would imagine actually that was 200, and the balance was the payment processor took it off. Quite a few for 192.30, which again, he probably donated 200 each time. There's one for 100, one for 10, but most of them are $192. So no question that it looks like that's where support was. Also, this is a pretty low resolution image, but apparently that stop sign and the Trump sign are joined together, and it's meant to say stop Trump. Can't confirm that, but here's what I can confirm, Khalid, and I'm dying to hear your thoughts on this. Look at his eyes. They always have the eyes. Always. Yep. I mean, the window to the soul. It's. Yep. I mean, I'm guessing that if he had PTSD, they probably had him jacked up on SSRIs, which now makes him the equivalent of a middle-aged white liberal lady. Same level of psychosis, essentially.
Yep.
But I don't know.
We're still not sure if he had TBI or if he had PTSD, because vets don't do this. I mean, in 2 days in a row for vets to go out and shoot stuff up, that's never happened. It's always been, some lunatic that's done it. It's never been a vet.
Well, I think some of this though is radicalization, right? The left, the Democrats, the legacy media are inciting violence on a nonstop basis. And you take somebody like that who's mentally unstable and feels that the freedom that he fought for is being taken away by fascists. I mean, I don't know how we solve this, but here's my opinion on it, Khalid. Legacy media and politicians who incite violence need to face accountability, because all of this violence, including Charlie's assassination, falls on them, and there's a lot of blood on their hands, and they want to say, well, this is both sides. Oh, okay. Show me all the videos of conservative white males shooting places up.
No. I think the Trump administration did a really interesting job, a really interesting thing today. They released a list of all of the members of government, whether it be a governor, whether it be a member of the House or member of the Senate, who has incited violence against ICE. I think it was something like 60 names. And to put those names out there and what kind of incitement they've done, it was interesting that we posted, we said, it'll be nice if Pam Bondi takes some action against these guys, because letting them stay in office and continue to behave this way is just uncalled for. As long as they keep talking like this, you're inciting violence, and that's against the law.
They know exactly what they're doing, you know.
Yeah.
And it's insulting for them to say, oh, well, this is both sides. No, it's not. But it's fixing to be. And that's when shit's going to get real, because there will be people who just reach a point where they feel they have nothing to lose and they'll fight back, and it's going to be ugly. And we're not, you know, promoting violence or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is, if you push people, they will inevitably push back at some point in time. It's human nature. So again,
well, just to add on to that, Chris, there was two things that we put up on X today. One was Kamala Harris calling Donald Trump a fascist. The second was who was it? Governor Newsom. No, Governor Newsom's press office saying Stephen Miller is a fascist. Then we found a story about a group called 50501, which is a right-wing activist group, just like Antifa. And if you read through what we put up, I mean, they are ready for violence. They are not talking peaceful solutions.
What's the numbers again, Khalid?
50501. That's the number. That's the name of the group. 5051.
Well, so 5150, 5150. The code,
No, it's
I know.
5001.
I know. Just track where I'm going with this, though.
Yeah.
Code 5150 means lunatic on the loose, like somebody's escaped from an asylum on the loose. When you said, say it again, say the numbers that they had.
5051.
Yeah, it's just pretty darn close to 5150 when you say it phonetically like that. But anyway, I've never heard of them. I'm not saying they don't exist, but here's a little bit more, Khalid. So there's the tag that was on his truck, and it shows again that he was supposedly an Iraq veteran.
Yep.
And you can see where he drove into the church here. He did a fair bit of damage when he did that. But anyway, it looks like he's a veteran. We can probably say that much safely. Here's the next piece, which is cedarnews.net. I'm somewhere, Khalid, now don't quote me on this, but I think somewhere I read that he was actually a member of this church. And if somebody,
he was a Mormon, grew up in that church. That's what that was the information we got as well, that he grew up a Mormon. And he grew up in that church, because he's only 18. He's about 15 to 18 miles away from that church. Okay. So this is where he went to church at every Sunday.
Interesting. I'll play part of this here. Pretty good sized fire, to say the least. Not a lot of talking in that one. 2 dead now, by the way. 2 dead is confirmed, 9 injured.
A little girl was shot in the back. I mean, I remember that was one of the first reports that came out, as a child was shot in the back.
I heard a lady who was a witness who watched the guy shoot the little girl in the back. I mean, this guy's going straight to hell. Here's an aerial view. And there's no audio with this video, by the way, but that's a 5-alarm fire right there.
Yeah. They had Flint, Michigan's fire department out. They had Grand Blank's fire department out. They were calling in fire departments from everywhere. They ran out of water at one point. I was listening to the scanner. They ran out of water trying to put this fire out. They called in helicopters, and they were dropping water from the helicopters as well.
Yeah, that's serious. So here's a little bit more information. This is earlier today when it was on fire. Somebody was listening to the local scanner. Where is it relative to Flint? It's right here, bottom right corner.
Yeah, it's right down. It's maybe 10 miles away from, maybe at the most 10 miles away from Flint.
You know, I wasn't tracking on that myself. That makes a whole lot of sense, because Flint is one of the most dangerous cities in the entire country. Not to mention the fact that they've been struggling with water problems for God knows how long now, but Flint is a very rough city. So kind of interesting that they would be that close. I don't know.
Your location matters, because you've got Flint here, you've got Burton here, and you've got Grand Blanc right in the middle.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that we've got a whole lot more information to share at this point in time. If anybody has anything in the audience, you want to drop it into the live chat, drop a link in with more details, happy to share it and give you credit for it as well. This is New York Post. So it's been updated to say 2 dead, 8 wounded, not 9. One of the wounded ended up dying. Correct that. And again, there's the aerial view of it. But again, I don't think we have any more information at this particular point in time, Cleve, unless you can think of something.
Even the 5 o'clock press conference that the police department didn't give us a lot of information.
Yeah, here's a short video that you sent at the scene in Grand Blanc, Michigan. A man ran his car into a church, started shooting. Family members are waiting to be united with their loved ones. Obviously, that was hours ago. A little girl's been shot in the back. Many people have blood on their clothes. Please pray for the victims and for our first responders. 29 seconds.
I'm at the scene of a giant fire happening at a church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. I talked to someone who just got here from South America. It's his first week in the U.S., went to church with his mom. His mom is still in the building, and he got out. From what I'm hearing on the ground, a man drove his vehicle into the church and then started shooting and even shot a little girl in the back, and she is at the hospital right now. The shooter has been neutralized, but that's all I know at the moment. Everyone within a 30-minute radius has responded to the scene.
Yeah, did you catch, Khalid, that there's a strike going on, I believe, at the local trauma center?
Yeah, the nurses were on strike.
And they went back in light.
Yeah, there was a call that went through that one of the trauma centers only had room for 5 more patients, and then you have to look for another trauma center to send the
interesting. Yeah, so this one here is just more drone footage of the building on fire. And let me see, I think this is the last one we've got pulled up right now. Oh, wait a minute. There was somebody in the audience, and then we're streaming to 9 platforms. So what we see for the live chat's not the same as what you guys see, because we see it all. So here you go. Check that out. There's Patriot again. 55 ones, 50 states. 50
the article that we read this morning was they said it was a right-wing group. So that was why I said right-wing. I mean, you know me, Chris. I try and get my facts right.
Yeah.
So the article we posted, they said right-wing group there, and I've already apologized in the chat for the mistake for saying it was right-wing. But if you go to our X and check out the post, read the article, they're painting them as a right-wing group.
Well, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist here to predict that when it's confirmed 100% that this guy is a left-wing lunatic, it'll be memory hold instantly.
Yep.
It'll disappear from the news cycle. Want to thank Annie, by the way, said it looks like there's probably another press conference coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be in the midst of our main topic, which we're fixing to dive into here, the very next asset that I bring up. But if something interesting comes out of that press conference, please throw a link in the live chat. We'll stop on the Al-Qaeda threat and to deliver anything that's good breaking news. Otherwise, it's time for us to get into the main topic of this evening. So Khalid's been doing SITREPs 4 or 5 days a week, situation report, before we dive into the main topic in our Long War series, which is 144 episodes long. You can watch them you can watch one, you can watch all of them, you can watch them in order, not in order. We built each episode to stand on its own. And even if we're wrong and there is no 9/11 2.0, all of the stuff that we're putting out there will prepare you for other calamities like hurricanes and those sort of things. So either way, you win in the end. And I'll be honest, I would like nothing more than for us to be wrong on the intelligence front as far as 2.0s. But
we all like to be wrong.
I don't see that happening. But either way, so the balance of tonight, we're going to be diving into intelligence that Khalid's group has brought to the forefront, some stuff that he's commented on. None of this is fear-mongering, by the way. The reality is legacy media doesn't tell the truth. Years ago, I used to say best case scenario infotainment, worst case propagandatainment. It's all propaganda. Early 1980s, over 500 independently owned news organizations in America. 6 conglomerates own all of it now, like BlackRock, Vanguard, those types of entities. And 75% of advertising revenue on legacy media comes from big pharma. And the reason they do that is not so that you go to your primary and say, hey, I saw this, drug on TV. Can you prescribe it to me? The reason they do it is because big pharma basically says to each of those stations, you either tell the narrative the way we tell you to tell it, or we pull our ad spend and, you're out of business, sort of thing. It's as crooked as a dog's hind leg. So you can't believe anything that they say anymore. You have to question everything and go research it. And even with us, we tell people what our sources are. If you're paying Guardian, you get them all at the end of each daily SITREP. If you're a free member, you still get all of the SITREP for free, other than the sources. But we would encourage you to go out. We can respectfully disagree on something, and you can come back and say that we were wrong and you were right. We've issued 5 retractions in almost 600 episodes, and I'm perfectly happy to do that and carry on. So anyway, at the end of the day, Joe Biden, the auto pen, whatever you want to call it, flooded our country with hundreds of thousands of SIAs that they knowingly let go. Mayorkas's DHS says they let 200,000 SIAs into our country, special interest aliens. That acronym means either known terrorist or known terrorist associate. Full stop. That's it. So at a bare minimum, we have 200,000 terrorists in the country hiding out inside of safe houses where they never leave. We don't even know they're here until those sleeper cells are activated. Khalid and Sarah and Jane Doe, and a couple others have pulled together a ton of firsthand intelligence, some of which is not for public consumption. But regardless, the high level overview is the same. And then I'm going to come to you on the very first one that you've got from the NCTC. So just bear with me just for another second. Here's what it looked like. You have ISIS cells, small ISIS cells, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, multiple ISIS cells in 10 to 15 tier 2 cities, population 100,000 to 500,000, that have one level 1 trauma center. And those small ISIS cells, they attack soft targets, let's say a school, and they wait for the first responders to show up, and then they let off a VBID, a vehicle-borne IED, and with the target being to kill as many first responders as possible. There's a ton of uniforms that have been stolen from National Guard armories, dry cleaners, you name it. So National Guard uniforms, law enforcement uniforms, paramedic uniforms. So think Mumbai 2008 or Paris 2015. Those were the blueprints for complex coordinated terrorist attacks. Difference being 10 to 15 cities simultaneously, and 5 to 10 minimum ISIS terror cells who converge at the end on the tier 1 trauma center, take it over and spend days broadcasting out horrific videos of beheading Americans, torturing Americans until we have enough manpower to storm it. You're not doing this with small untrained teams. You need either the FBI's HRT teams, so hostage rescue teams. There's 4 of them. They're small for the entire country, or Delta Force, the most elite operators in the world. So it will take days to clean all of that up. Now track this. While all of the first responders are getting blown up and killed by these bad guys rushing to these soft targets, Al-Qaeda goes to the local airport and hijacks several planes on the ground, because hijacking in the air, much more difficult. So believe it or not, the intel doesn't say that they won't fly planes into buildings like 9/11 1.0, but what it does say is they'll fly at low altitude over our cities and explode the plane in the air so that dead body parts are falling all over the place to traumatize people beyond all belief. You can look up the Bojinka theory if you want. So Clay, let me pull up your first article here so you can speak to it, and we'll get rolling. Just bear with me for a second here. We've got a lot of stuff on. Where's Nick tonight? Where's our producer?
I don't know where Nick is tonight. He's been with us every night.
He's with his wife. I'm just teasing. All right. So first one up here from Khalid from NCTC, so National Counterterrorism Center. Alert for all Israelis and Jews of targeting during upcoming Jewish holidays. Hamas is active in the US, UK, and Europe. Muslim Brotherhood will be orchestrating and financing. So keep your head on a swivel. I'll pull that up a little bit larger for y'all. Still quite an eye test to be able to read that. But Khalid, go ahead and talk about this. I'm going to put you up full screen so you can speak to this at length.
Okay. This is a double layered threat. First, you've got Hamas on one side that are targeting the Israelis and the Jews on their holidays, and that's why the holidays are listed. And on the second side, ISIS has also issued a formal threat to Israelis and Jews that what they have said is wherever you find them, it doesn't matter if it's holiday or not, it doesn't matter if you're at the synagogue or not, They are saying wherever you find a Jew, you kill them. That's the ISIS threat. So everyone who is a practicing Jew needs to be very careful. NCTC has gotten really active all of a sudden. They're putting out a lot of threats, and that's good that Joe's working like this, and he's pushing these threats out, because on one side, we've been screaming for so long about this, and now that Joe has gone active, it's become almost like every other day he's putting out a threat. There is a rumor flying around, and we've seen a lot of videos saying this, that the Zionists are saying that there's going to be another 9/11. The Zionists are not saying it. This is something that Sarah, myself, Scott Mann, Wes Hardin, Shani Healy, John Rosamando, who we had on the show the other night, we've all been tracking this for well over 18 months, and we've been talking about it for well over 18 months, but nobody's been paying attention. When people woke up to it was when Joe put out the threat. When he put out the threat, then Laura Loomer picked it up, and all of a sudden the story changed. It went from being an Al-Qaeda threat to a Zionist threat. Please do not listen to the people that have just started talking about it. Yes, they're great for spreading information right now, but they are not your sources of information. The people that are the sources of information are the people that have been talking about for 18 months, because we've been working to make sure this information gets out. We have hit every door, every single door, trying to get this information out to the public. No one wanted to cooperate. Now that it's out, everyone's taking credit for it. We're not here to take credit. We want to save lives. We don't care who says what, but your pure intelligence sources, Sarah Adams, us at CommandEleven, we're where it comes from. And on Friday, hopefully we will issue an updated threat assessment that will cover all 5 levels of the threat we're looking at, because we've been talking about the 9/11 ground attack. Sarah's been talking about the Al-Qaeda attack on the aviation system. There's another threat that's floating around that we have not really gone into very heavily, which is the veteran communities. Wherever vets live, work, and play, that is also a target, but that is a retribution attack. For what was done in Iraq and Afghanistan to the terrorist groups, they are targeting vet communities. Now, this will tie back to what SOCOM issued as a threat alert when they said anyone who was active in any special ops operator that was active in Iraq or Syria is under direct threat. That is the threat that we're talking about right now, is that is also out there. So we are looking, if you go back in our timeline on X a couple of days ago, we laid out 5 threats. These are the 5 threats in the threat matrix that America's facing right now. That's what you've got. Yeah, this is the tweet I was talking about. Al-Qaeda's aviation plot, which is a repeat of the Bojinga plot, which failed. The SOCOM alert to special operators that was for Iraq and Syria specifically. Correlated to the SOCOM threat is the threat to veteran communities, which means where they live, work, and play. That's the threat. Then there's the threat to the tier 2 cities, which is what we've been talking about. And then there are roll-on attacks to additional cities after the tier 2 attack happens. So this is the 5 threats we're talking about.
Yeah, this is a good time to point out there's a reason that Khalid and I called the series we're doing the Long War series. When 9/11 2.0 happens, it's not a one and done. The world in America will change forever thereafter. It's not like the 200,000 SIAs, which is probably more like 500,000 SIAs is going to go, oh, well, our work is done here. We'll go home now. There will be terrorist attacks on an ongoing regular basis, much like we see in the Middle East. If you go to the religionofpeace.com, there have been over 48,000 radical jihadi terrorist attacks since 9/11 2001. And our legacy media doesn't cover that because they want you to believe that all of these people coming from third world countries, they love us, they love America, and they're going to enrich our culture, and they're going to be our doctors and blah, blah, blah. And it's all a bunch of bullshit. But regardless, after 9/11 2.0, you get the roll-on attacks that Khalid's talking about, and this is not over ever. No. Not in our lifetime, not in our kids, with the number of terrorists that Biden, Mayorkas, Obama, and Brennan really that were in charge let into our country. It's unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. Go ahead.
I want to point out to everybody, if you are wondering about what we're talking about SIAs, We did an episode with JJ Carroll. He is a retired Customs and Border Patrol officer. If you go back and watch that episode, we laid out plain and clear how these terrorists got into the country, what the orders were when they were caught. And JJ and I both agreed that if the government is saying 200,000, it's 500,000. That's 500,000 terrorists inside the US right now. That's a huge threat. And a lot of people are not, a lot of the newcomers that are talking about this are not talking numbers, they're not talking facts because they don't have it. So your facts are coming from the people that actually know.
Yeah, so JJ, 24-year special agent with CBP, he specifically reported on firsthand information from people who used to report into him that were freaked out. They would reach out to him and say, we're being told to release these SIAs. What do we do? And JJ said, well, if you want to save your job and all of your benefits, like health benefits, you got to let them in. But if you're going to quit and protest, they're still going to get set free. So the 200,000 that Mayorkas, documented at DHS, literally walked across the border, said, I'm here to seek refugee status. And inside of 48 hours, we're on the loose in America. Yeah, gone. Yeah. You don't know who I am, but you will. That asshole, right?
Yeah. You know where that guy is right now? That guy is in Denver right now. We've been tracking him since he got into the country.
If you didn't watch that, just look up the video. It's not that hard to find, to be quite honest. So
that guy was really came across the border.
I got a question for you to move on. And by the way, the first intel that showed that veterans were at risk was from Sarah a couple months ago. Yep. And Randy got a notification. Randy's on through the week with us, combat wounded Green Beret, and he got a warning on his phone, and we couldn't find anything on it initially. It took about an hour for us to find anything, but we were live on the air, and he said, oh, so they're saying that GWAT veterans in the Tampa area in particular, because SOCOM, et cetera, is there, that they're going to go in retribution, like you said. So that's only got bigger. But I got a question for you before we move on.
Sure.
What can Jewish synagogues and Christian churches do right now to mitigate attacks on their houses of worship?
Barricades. Start with barricades. Because when you put up cement barricades that you have to zigzag through, it makes sure that it makes it impossible for someone to get in. Number two, it's like our friend Keith Graves says, build a security team. And build a security team of people that actually know how to use weapons. Run your church, your synagogue through a test, not one test, not two tests, 5 or 6 test runs so they understand how to behave when an attack happens. Look, America's churches are a target. America's synagogues are a target. You cannot pretend that this is not going to happen. You have to understand, whether it be Antifa, the far left, whoever it may be, even your jihadis, hitting your churches is a big target, especially the mega churches. Any church that is large in its congregation, those are bigger targets. Now, in terms of, you've got a question there from Watchtower, how about good gun owners carry their guns to church? I would happily recommend that you carry, but you have to ask your church whether you're allowed to carry. Because taking a weapon to your church and finding out that you're not allowed to have a weapon inside does no good. Or change your church's policy that in the event of something happening, can we keep a weapon inside the church? Can people who are qualified shooters keep weapons inside the church? I'm not going to recommend it until you've talked, unless your church gives you permission to carry that weapon, because a lot of churches say no.
Yeah, so my advice is, number one, go to christianwarriortraining.com. That's my very good friend, Keith Graves, a 30-year Bay Area cop, drug and gang interdiction subject matter expert, SWAT team leader. When he moved from California to Idaho and found a church that him and his wife could settle in with, they had no security team. So he started them down the path to having a qualified security team. The first time he went to the cops, local cops, and said, what's your response time to get there? And they said the very fastest would be 8 minutes for the first cop, but it's going to be even longer before anybody else comes. So Keith ran a simulation in the church that was set to last 8 hours. And I'm looking for a UTM round here in my. So this is a UTM training round. Okay, so normally, like before you shoot it, there's a tiny little paintball in the end, 400 feet per second, and as you can see on the back, there's a primer. So you take a regular firearm and you swap out some parts so it becomes less lethal and it shoots these guys. But the auditory report from these is identical to a regular shot. So it's loud and it'll get your attention. So for 8 minutes, Keith's standing there with a bullhorn the first time they ran a simulated attack on the church. And he's like, 1 minute, 2 minutes, and carried on like that. Everybody in the church died, number one, like figuratively speaking. And almost all of them came up to Keith and said, that was the longest 8 minutes of my life.
Yep.
So they listened to him. He put together their security team. He's part of it as well. And the thing is with carrying weapons somewhere like that, you got to know who's on your side and who's not on your side. So I would recommend coordinating with the church security team. And if you don't have a church security team, ask them to form one. And if they don't want to, I would choose another church myself. But Keith gives away a ton of training, by the way, on ChristianWarriorTraining.com. So head over there, soak up as much information as you can, and get your church security in order, because this is now turning into every week multiple attacks on churches. And obviously we're concerned with America, but this is happening worldwide. This is why Khalid and I were so pissed off last week that Jolani was allowed in New York City to speak to the UN when he has beheaded Christians for years as the leader of a leader of Al Qaeda, and then a leader of ISIS after that. And we're supposed to believe he's a good guy. The guy hates America, has done heinous things to America, smiling. I've seen pictures of him with two severed heads with a grin ear to ear. I mean, anyway, that's my watch is going to go off.
He was in America. While he was in America, his own security, his own quote unquote army was burning Christian villages in Syria.
Just not last week, I think it was the week before, if memory serves me right. There were 2,000 Christians killed in Syria under his watch, and a similar number of Druze. I want to say it was just under 2,000. I mean, it's bad stuff going on over there is an understatement. So let's go to the next one here. And another guy that Khalid and I are really fond of, Sebastian Gorka. There's not a day that Seb Gorka doesn't make a fool of himself and the American people. I've met him a couple times. Extremely arrogant, not qualified in any way whatsoever to deal with terrorist organizations. Khalid, you got to tell everybody about him and the bullshit that he's telling people.
Okay, let me explain it this way. All of you who've been to a university and had a professor, you know what their mentality is. They have no experience. They don't know what they're talking about. They only understand the book they're reading to you. Seb Gorka is the exact same thing. He is an ivory tower academic. He has never been on the battlefield. He has never been in a country where terrorists exist. He cannot read Arabic. He cannot read Urdu, so he doesn't know what the actual terrorist is saying. And he's pontificating on how to fight terrorism. The marginalized Afghanistan policy that Donald Trump has, where they're leaving Afghanistan to do whatever they want. And Gorka's made a couple of very lovely statements about how the Taliban are very moderate partners in terms of fighting terrorism, because the Taliban have enemies in Afghanistan that they need to protect themselves against. And we can trust them, and their objectives are just like ours. Gorka is an idiot, hands down an idiot. I don't know how he got a job in this administration, how he got a job as the senior advisor to counterterrorism. He sits on the National Security Council. That's the level he's achieved. This is a guy who has never seen a bullet or a battlefield. And you're telling Donald Trump, the president of the United States, how to handle terrorism around the world. He's an absolute joke. The other day, he did a speech at an Israeli university where he flat out said that if October 7th were to happen in the US, America would not be able to recover, comparing it to 9/11, saying 9/11 really wasn't that bad compared to October 7th. I understand what you're trying to say, but let's not defame the people that died on 9/11, the people who died fighting for America's freedom in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. That's just, it's obscene. It's like what Mike Huckabee said the other day. Mike Huckabee the other day was speaking in Israel and said, Israel's army is more moral than the U.S. army is. And I went, are you kidding? You're the ambassador, you're the U.S. ambassador to Israel, not Israel's ambassador to the U.S.
Right. I agree with Penn's rule here. I'm not going anywhere I can't carry. Amen to that. That's my policy as well. Let's have a listen to, I've got 2 videos queued up from your ex on Sebastian Gorka. Let's listen to both of them. We'll provide some commentary in between the 2 though. 1 minute, 17 seconds.
And I think of the amazing mathematics of what happened on that day. If you put the numbers killed on October the 7th, the biggest loss of Jewish life since the end of the Shoah, since the end of the Holocaust, and you project it onto the size of the American population, we are still suffering mentally and spiritually from the events of 9/11. But if we had gone through October the 7th in the same proportion to the number of Jews who were killed, we would have lost 34,000 Americans that day. So we cannot even relate to what happened. But I've seen the video of what happened that day, the unedited version. And as I said, as a private citizen, after I had been shown that video, I hope the people of this great nation find everyone responsible, kill them, bury them, and salt the earth above their graves.
So just for reference sake, Al-Qaeda said they want a minimum of 50,000 Americans killed in their next attack. But the law enforcement guys we've brought in at a high level, by the way, have all said it'll be 100,000, if not more, if they're able to pull off this plot that they have planned. Let's go to the next one here, 50 seconds. And then I think you've commented on both these, but feel free to add whatever you want after this one, Khalid.
Some very promising things I can't give full details about are in motion right now, especially when it comes to U.S. citizens who are being detained in Afghanistan. My greatest concern, and the Taliban, this sounds strange coming out of my mouth, but the Taliban have been moderately cooperative counterterrorism partners, because there are certain threat groups in their country, Muslim threat groups, that threaten them as well. And so we're working together. We don't have a complete overlap in threats, but not bad. The biggest concern is, of course, and you understand this, is with the surrender of Kabul under Biden, it's very hard to see everything we need to see happening in that region. Can I leave it at that?
Yeah. You got to comment on this, Khalid, because if I do it, my watch is going to tell me I got high blood pressure or something like that.
Okay, first off, the absolute stupidity of that statement that there's groups fighting the Taliban. The only group fighting the Taliban is Ahmed Massoud. The National Resistance Front that Ahmed Massoud leads is trying to throw the Taliban out of government. That's the only group fighting the Taliban. ISIS is on the Taliban's payroll. The Islamic movement of Uzbekistan is on their payroll. The Turkmen Islamic Party is on their payroll. Hamas is on their payroll. Hezbollah is on their payroll. October 7th, for Mr. Gorka's information and knowledge, was planned and carried out with the Taliban's assistance. So when you talk about the Taliban being a moderate coordinate partner for counterterrorism, I don't know which Taliban you're talking about.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Khalid. So moving on to the next one here, and Khalid had John on Friday. He's a Newsmax guy, Newsmax reporter. So the UN is a partisan in this war on the side of Hamas. There's no neutrality here. There's a Hamas genocide, if there's one at all. Its employees participated in the Hamas massacre on October 7th, meaning UN 2023. It explicitly supports Hamas, evidenced by special reporter Francesca Albanese explicitly stating her support for Hamas. The UN report leaves out lots of things. I read it. One thing it omits is that the 1949 Geneva Convention states that hospitals, apartments, mosques, schools, etc. lose their protection when they are used by combatants in a war. Israel has endeavored to get civilian populations to leave. Explain why you support this guy in saying the Hamas tunnels were built under these buildings in Gaza to protect its thousands of fighters. You also clearly want Hamas to be able to start new wars every year to 18 months, like it's done since 2009. So before we go any further, I'm going to let you speak to that, Khalid, but myself personally, as the CEO and owner of Survival Dispatch News, I'm a textbook libertarian, lowercase L, capital L. Those guys are friggin' lunatics. I wish that this stuff in the Middle East would just stay in the Middle East. They've been fighting since Christ was a cowboy, and they ain't going to stop. And I want less than nothing to do with it. I don't give a shit if it's Hamas, Israel, all of them we need to divorce ourselves from all of that crap. And if we lose some subscribers because you're pro Hamas or pro Israel, oh well, we shouldn't be involved in the story. It's not our fight. Let them fight it themselves. So with that being said, Clete, go ahead and speak to what John said in that tweet.
Well, let's pick up from where the IDF spoke about. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. The IDF put out a statement saying there are still 20,000 Hamas fighters in Gaza. With all the bombing that's been done by Israel in the Gaza Strip, there are still 20,000 Hamas fighters. You need to remember that statement as I go forward. Hamas is a terrorist organization, number one. Flat out terrorist organization. You cannot call them freedom fighters. They are not freedom fighters. That's the wrong statement to use. Number two, the problem with Hamas, the problem with Hamas is that they have used schools, hospitals, apartment buildings. Everything is a weapon store for them. And I'll give you an example from here in Pakistan. We have found bombs, guns, weapons inside of mosques, inside of schools here in Pakistan. So it's not a new thing to figure that out. Number two, Hamas uses Gaza's civilians, Palestinian civilians, as human shields. That is something most people don't understand. The reason they use them as human shields, propaganda. When they make the videos, when they take the pictures, when the UN writes the report, this many innocent civilians were killed. That gives Hamas more power. That's all it is. That's the same reason the Taliban does it. That's the same reason that other terror groups do it, is to get the propaganda out of it. Pakistan bombs a terrorist camp inside of Afghanistan. The only people complaining are the human rights groups. But when they blow themselves up here in Pakistan, they kill hundreds of innocent civilians. There's not a human rights group there that talks. This is obvious to us. The UN is bought and paid for by these terror groups. They support Hamas, they support Hezbollah, they support the Taliban. All of the food that the UN is providing to Afghanistan, and this is known fact, all the food that's being provided by the United Nations to Afghanistan is being turned into terror camps. The people of Afghanistan are not getting a bit of food. That is why they are complaining.
Sparrow 6'5" can't carry what? A tuna or a gun? good response. Well said. So let's move on to the next one, Khalid. Let me just get it. Oh yeah, here we are back to Jolani. Oh my God. So here's another post from Political Base Abdul. This guy's actually really good. He's inside Afghanistan. I'm surprised that the Taliban or somebody else haven't killed him yet, but Abu Muhammad al-Julani's ties to the leaders of the Taliban terrorist group go beyond a tactical connection. They are seemingly different, one in a suit, the other in a turban, but they share a common goal, all-out support for global terrorism. So they trimmed his beard up. They got rid of, the headwear, put him in a suit, and now we're supposed to believe he's this great partner for us in Syria. So I'm going to move on, Khalid, and I'll have you comment on this one from John as well. Resistance movement? No, it's a movement whose whole impetus of killing is killing Israeli civilians and provoking terror. Hamas is a terrorist movement. It fits the UN's own definition of terrorist, and that's what all this is. And I'm not going to bore you reading all that legalese crap, but go ahead and run with those comments on John's part with regards to Hamas being, I don't know, whitewashed. What's the right word, Khalid?
No, look, the the problem that you have with what's being reported in the media is, for some reason, the US and the UK like to whitewash terrorists. I think it was almost 6 months ago, the New York Times did a story on Sirajuddin Haqqani. Haqqani is the most brutal of all the terrorists in Afghanistan. They went to his childhood. They showed his childhood pictures as he was growing up, and how he got involved in the Mujahideen when the fight was against the Soviet Union. His father actually led the Haqqani group. Jalaluddin Haqqani was the leader of the Haqqani group at that time. But that was during the time when Afghanistan was occupied by the Soviets. Once the Soviets left, Haqqani grew up and he started becoming a master planner. He is a master strategist. Right? If all of you know the name Qasem Soleimani, the IRGC commander that put together the asymmetric warfare that targets Israel with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Syria, Haqqani is no different. The American media tried to whitewash it. That, oh, let's wash him clean, let's wash him clean, let's wash him clean. They made Haqqani look like he was going to be the next leader of Afghanistan, right? Number two, Jolani. If you go back and watch the interview we did with John on Friday, and it was rapid fire. I'm going to tell you right now, it was rapid fire. You're going to have to watch it 2 or 3 times to get all the information. 10 years ago, assets of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States started promoting Jolani to the State Department as the next leader of Syria. 10 years ago, while he was still Al-Qaeda. And slowly and surely, they took over the government. They got the Muslim. Jolani is fully backed by the Muslim Brotherhood, by the way. And if you go back and read some of our tweets that just in the past couple of days, Muslim Brotherhood equals Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda equals HTS, which is what Jolani leads.
So, Khalid, I've got a couple questions for you, but first let's address what S. Sarles said here. So we're sending $87 million a week to the Taliban in Afghanistan, $40 million for counterterrorism activity, $5 million a week to each of the top 5 guys in the Taliban. Plus,
wrong. Let me correct you there. $40 million a week goes from for supporting the government. $10 million a week goes to support the Doha Command and Control Center, and $100 million is sent by the CIA to cover up what they're doing there.
Put it this way, regardless of numbers, they're big numbers. But how's Hamas being funded? Is it IRGC, Taliban? Muslim Brotherhood. Okay.
Muslim Brotherhood has so many different donation platforms in the United States, in Europe, where they're collecting money and funneling it to Hamas. Ever since the IRGC locked hands with the Taliban, now a portion of that American money that's coming to Afghanistan is being pushed out to Hamas. On top of that, the Taliban has given up the heroin trade. They are now making methamphetamines. The amount of money they are generating from methamphetamines, part of that goes to Hamas.
Okay, that's good to know. I appreciate that. So before we move on, I just want to at this point inject something that it's pretty offensive that our legacy media has been trying to paint Hamas as some sort of freedom fighters, the resistance. These are brutal terrorists who committed heinous crimes on 10/7. And I'll tell you what, if that had happened here, Sebastian Gorka's so wrong, it's not even funny. We would have gone on a rampage like there was no tomorrow. And I'm fully willing to predict that post 9/11 2.0, we will be turning parts of the world into parking lots, put it that way.
Yep.
And, we will not show the restraint that we're showing. But Hamas are these are evil terrorists. They are not freedom fighters. Now they've poisoned, meaning the legacy media and all these activist groups have poisoned our college campuses. So kids think that Hamas are the freedom fighters and Israel's committing this genocide. You know what? They're all assholes. All of them. They're all bad people assholes, meaning the guys in control in Israel are bad assholes, and meaning Hamas is a terrorist group. They're assholes. There's Israeli people and Palestinian people that are just normal people, decent people, but the shitheads are running the show. They're assholes. And I'm trying to be polite, not cuss too much on a Sunday evening. But anyway, I want to mention a couple quick things here. If you go to survivaldispatch.news, We broadcast at 7 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, and occasionally special episodes like tonight. If you don't want to go on the hunt for the link, it's really easy. Just go to survivaldispatch.news and you'll see the live video at the top of our homepage. When we're not broadcasting, it goes away. You get the SITREP, the daily situation report. And if you haven't seen a situation report, this is the SITREP that goes with tonight's video. Lots of information in here, lots of links, all the way down to my signature. Then below my signature, these are all for paying guardians, $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year. And when you pay yearly, you get 2.5 months for free. But membership has its benefits. So you get enrolled in the SDEN system, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. I'm announcing again tonight, let me see where it is right here, that if you go and buy these POC link radios, I'm creating a Guardians group on these as well, which means one button, push to talk to the entire group across the world, no matter where they are. These are global, by the way. And that's going to be one of the value adds of being a Survival Dispatch News Guardian, is you'll be included in this if you buy these LTE phones. $399 right now for two, going to $1,140 imminently, and free global SIM coverage if you buy it now versus $29 to $65 a year after that. There's a link down below in the comment section, and I'll show you what it looks like so you know you're on the right site. This is what it looks like here. By the way, if you're a Guardian, in addition to getting SDENs enrolled, you get access to our super crazy signal chat. The volume of intel share between experts and ordinary everyday people is absolutely phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it as far as sharing intel is concerned. You get our entire library of 37 Survival Dispatch Insider magazines, which normally sell for $9.99 a piece. Those are e-mags. You get early access to JJ Morris's instructional videos. And again, you get all the sources at the bottom of our SITREPs. This is the POC link page. Once the first 1,000 radios is gone, this price of $399 is gone with it, not to return. So there is some urgency if you want in on that. Communicate with your family, your group. But again, we will enroll you as a Guardian in the Guardians group on the POC links. All you have to do is send us proof that you signed up. There's a screenshot you can send us with an IMEI number. Good to go. And also, before I forget, because I seem to always forget this at the middle of the broadcast, and that's to say thank you to our friends at Carnival. They're our premier sponsor. They defer a bunch of expenses for us. We're $4,500+ a month just in software subscriptions to run everything that we do behind the scenes. But there's a link down below for Carnival. Use the code EATMEAT, all one word. And for all of you who've been asking for single servings, they are now shipping as of this weekend. You buy a box of 12, so that's 12 meals, and $79 for that box. You can store it on the shelf. You can take it with you when you go off grid and hiking, hunting, camping, whatever. Myself, I can't keep it in the pantry. My wife gives me shit for it all the time because it's so fast and easy and it's high quality food. I go and cook it up. She's like, "You're eating our preps again." Well, we got all the other crappy preps that we bought before. Let me just eat and be happy. I'm of Greek heritage, and in the Greeks world, it's all about the food at the end of the day. So, all right, that's the end of this commercial message. Now we return to your regularly scheduled program. So this is a great comment, by the way, Khalid. Loomer is an opportunistic mole. We are professional hunters of terrorists. So Khalid's intelligence, Sarah's, Jane Doe's, went to Laura Loomer many months ago, and she blew it off. And then Sebastian Gorka canceled meetings between Joe Kent and Sarah Adams. Finally, somebody went over his head and got Sarah to brief Joe Kent, the head of our counterterrorism center, NCTC. That was approximately 4 weeks ago. Last week, he finally released a report saying, holy shit, Al-Qaeda 9/11 2.0, it's a thing, and it's advanced. And all of a sudden, Laura Loomer thinks that she's leading the pack. She gives no credit to anybody, and it's not me. This is Sarah, Jane Doe, and Khalid who deserve credit, and she's trying to take credit. Like, rah, rah, rah. Well, it's good that she reaches millions of people. It's not cool when you take responsibility or position yourself. Here's the crazy thing. And then I'm going to turn it over to you, John, because this is a super important part, Khalid. Khalid's living in a safe house, has not lived in his own home for 2 years. Sarah Adams has moved 3 times this year because Al-Qaeda keeps telling her, we're going to kill you. And Jane Doe is even worse. She can't even show her face. She's not inside of America. If she shows her face in the wrong location, she will be DRT right there. So you got Laura Loomer trying to take credit for people who put their lives on the line. That's the line with me, Khalid. That's where she crossed the line. All she had to do is say, listen, Joe Kent met with Sarah Adams. Sarah Adams delivered Khalid's intel, Jane Doe's intel, her intel. And here we go. We're finally moving the needle, finally have some recognition. But no, she's leading the pack. Go ahead, Khalid. My watch just went off. I have it on mute. My heart rate is high.
We've had over the past 18 months, a number of people pushed this to Laura Loomer. No response. Since May, when we put out our threat assessment, a lot of people that follow us have sent the threat assessment to Laura Loomer. She has not done anything with it. She woke up when Joe Kent put it out, and it was a very interesting wake up. Put out a big threat. Oh, jihadis are going to attack America. And then the next day, she turned around and attacked Joe Kent and brought up his dead wife, which to us was a cross of a line, that you do not bring up someone who died in the fight against terrorism, especially to someone like Joe. Joe is a special forces operator. He is very smart. He knows the battlefield. He knows what's going on. That's why when Sarah gave him the intelligence file, he acted immediately because he understood what the threat was. That same file could have been delivered to Congress, but Sebastian Gorka made sure that Sarah could not speak to a Senate committee to explain to them the threat. You are talking about what we have done over 18 months being boiled down into, I know better than everybody else. Well, okay, you know better. Go ahead, expand it on the threat for us. Tell us what the threat is, what's going to happen, how's it going to happen, when is it going to happen? Show us you know better. And you can't, because you're stealing credit from the people that are actually on the ground and know what they're talking about. The problem we see is it's not just Laura Loomer, Chris. We have been attacked by a YouTuber that when you look at the account, it is just unbelievable how little he knew. I mean, it was a direct attack on CommandEleven because we're a Pakistani company. Dude, Pakistani company understands Afghanistan better than anybody else because we live right next door. You know your next door neighbor better than I do. When I live in the other side of the city, I know my neighbor better than you do.
Yeah. So the next one up, Khalid, very well said, by the way, and I appreciate that. And just to be clear, we have Khalid, Sarah, JD, I'll leave it at that, Mike Glover, Matt Butler, Keith Graves, Ryan Geho, a couple other high-profile people in the intelligence world. We've put together the A team of open source intel, but there's nothing out there that will compare to what we've already started to roll out at deaddropintel.org with Mike Glover. The team that we've collectively put together is phenomenal. You will not see me out front on anything on Dead Drop. I'm not a subject matter expert when it comes to intel, so it wouldn't be appropriate for me to be out front. But Khalid, Mike Glover, Sarah Adams, it's 100% appropriate for them. But if you go to deaddropintel.org, sign up for a free account on the Substack there, and you'll get even more in-depth intel than what we cover on Survival Dispatch News. Our job here at Survival Dispatch News, and there's a reason we're called Survival Dispatch, is to dispatch information to our fellow Americans and friends of America so that we survive these very uncertain times. That's it. That's full stop. That's what we do at Survival Dispatch. So we try to take complex topics like Sarah brings to us, Khalid brings to us, and distill it down to the point for the average American so that they can get their heads wrapped around it and what they should do based on these threats. So anyway, deaddropintel.org, really cool. Check that out. And next one here, you've already commented on this, so there's no need to comment more, but there are a couple funny ha-has in here. So from Khalid's X account, Sebastian Gorka, typical ivory tower academic, no real knowledge and ego the size of a football stadium. He'd drop fecal matter is ever in a real terrorist environment. So that's when the fecal matter hits the oscillating device, right?
Yep.
So my name is Charlie, says this guy, since he came onto the scene in our country, he's been a thorn in my side, always gives me very bad vibes, too slick, or at least he thinks he is. Again, I've met him in person. This hubris doesn't even come close to describing it, but I love Sarah's comment. He's barely even an academic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. God bless Sarah. That's awesome. So Sarah, again, oh, you got to talk about this one. I'm telling you, they'll be taking me out on a stretcher. I'm going to end up having a stroke over this stuff. Sarah Adams, when only one person in the picture knows what's coming. As the 9/11 Commission warned, we do not believe leaders understand the gravity of the threat. So obviously we have Melania, Donald Trump, and Jolani.
Yep.
The Al-Qaeda / ISIS terrorist leader who's beheaded all kinds of Christians. There's a lot of evidence out there. It's not hard to find. It's not AI. Who's at ground zero, and everybody on our side shaking hands. Petraeus was falling over himself to say what an incredible guy. I'm concerned that you're not getting enough good sleep now that you're the president. What?
Yeah.
This guy's a terrorist.
And Petraeus sent him to jail in 2006. That's the funny part. Petraeus put him in Camp Bucca in 2006. 2006 to 2011, Jolani was sitting in a U.S. jail in Iraq. And Petraeus is falling all over him.
It's mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Go ahead. My problem is, Chris, every American diplomat, whether it be Secretary Rubio, Donald Trump, Tom Barack, all of them are treating this guy like he is the second coming. Yeah. I mean, Tom Barack literally said in an interview that there is no plan B if Jolani fails. Do you know what Jelani's actual objectives and goals are? He's not there to bring democracy. I mean, there's an election coming up, I think on the 9th of October, there's an election in Syria. He is the only candidate standing. And the beauty of the democracy in Syria under Jolani, they have given him 75% of the seats in the parliament, where he gets to pick who will be members of parliament. What kind of democracy is that?
It's not. It's easy to answer. It's not.
And when you look at that picture, Jolani knows what's coming. He was part of the planning of what is to come. And he's not telling Trump. I know for a fact, and this is inside the room, I know this is for a fact. Jolani sat down with Donald Trump and said, President Trump, you should do us a favor. What you should do is in Somalia, if you want peace, make Al-Shabaab part of the government. Al-Shabaab is an arm of Al-Qaeda. So you want to turn another state into an Al-Qaeda terrorist state. I don't understand what is going on with the U.S. government right now and how they're supporting this.
So if Donald Trump has a weakness, it's that he seems to continually surround himself by people who are not properly vetted, who then do a piss poor job at whatever their assignment is. So Matt makes a comment here. Part of me is concerned that Trump is compromised somehow. I don't think Trump is compromised. What I think is that because he's buddies with Sebastian Gorka and people like that, he appoints them and doesn't do any vetting. And whoever's doing his vetting isn't doing their job either. The one thing, Khalid, that I was hoping for a difference between Trump 1.0 and 2.0 is that they would do a better job of vetting senior cabinet officials, and that ain't happening. Look at Pam Bondi. I mean, but Pam Bondi's prime example. She was our AG here in Florida. She brought red flag laws to Florida. She charged George Zimmerman, and I'm not saying George Zimmerman is innocent at all. He's a shithead, but the law in Florida is 3 sentences long when it comes to stand your ground. And if you believe your life is in imminent danger, even if it's not, you can use deadly force and not even be charged. So she turned it into a dog and pony show by charging him. You know, he was getting his head bashed off the concrete curb, and maybe he deserved it, to be quite frank, but his life was in danger, and he shot Trayvon, right? And I'm not supporting Trayvon either. He's just another thug piece of shit, to be quite honest. neither one of them have any redeeming value whatsoever, but she was a terrible AG, just absolutely terrible. You know, I guess if we want anything to be memory hold, just put it on her desk, because if it ends up on her desk, it's off in the Bermuda Triangle.
There's three things I want to add to the conversation. If you go back and watch Friday's episode, John, I asked him a number of loaded questions. The first question I asked him was, what is the role of Qatar in all of this? And John's response was, Qatar is the banker for every terror organization. Let me repeat that. Qatar is the banker for every terror organization. Then I turned around and I asked him, I said, listen, explain something to me. Susie Wiles, Pam Bondi, they both worked as lobbyists for Qatar. Are they compromised? John didn't hesitate for a second. He said, yes, they are compromised. Now, when Susie Wiles is chief of staff of Trump's administration, and most of you have seen this, when Donald Trump is being interviewed and he gets asked a question, he goes, you know, I didn't know about that. When he goes back and he asks his staff, what about this? Donald Trump becomes very furious because he's been embarrassed in an interview with not knowing the facts. And the journalist comes back and says, well, we told you this was what was going on and you didn't know, which makes our president look like he's not informed. He's being purposely not informed. People are being roadblocked from Donald Trump by Susie Wiles. You get rid of Susie Wiles, Donald Trump will have more information. You get rid of Seb Gorka, Donald Trump will have more information. This is a problem in this administration. You have people that are sold out, that are making sure that President Trump is not getting the information he needs.
Well, and that dovetails perfectly into the next post that you made here. To act on insurgency, you need to recognize that the U.S. government still doesn't understand what's happening. Bad advisors around Donald Trump and the ones who understand what's happening are being ignored by the president. This should have been the focus of this administration for the first 100 days. So it just reiterates what we've already said. So I'll move on to the next one, which is Rubio. So if Rubio truly believes that Hamas is nearly defeated, or that more bullets and bombs will defeat, President Trump must remove him immediately, because he doesn't know its ideology or understand the lessons from GWAT. So, Khalid, for our new viewers, I'm seeing a lot of new people show up in the dashboard here. Explain the memory that jihadis carry as far as exacting revenge is concerned, because they hold grudges for hundreds of years. Roll with that, just so that our audience understand just how pragmatic and long-term thinking they are.
Look, when you attack a jihadi, when you attacked Afghanistan and Iraq, you did it with the intent of ending the oppression in those two countries. Jihadis took it as an affront to what they believe in, because the Taliban controlled Afghanistan. They saw it as America coming in, sticking their nose into where it doesn't belong, and starting a war in Afghanistan. And I shouldn't say the Haqqani network made it their personal policy to kill every American they possibly could. Let me repeat that. The Haqqani network did everything they possibly could to kill every American soldier they possibly could, whether it be a bomb blast, and the Haqqanis are brilliant with explosives, whether it be in a shooting, in an assault situation. The Taliban was not doing as much as what the Haqqani network was. They never forget. That's why 9/11 2.0 is a retribution attack. They want to bring the war you brought to their countries to your country.
Appreciate that, Khalid. I don't think that a lot of people are necessarily aware of these multi-century grudges that they hold. But moving on, another post from Sarah: bad actors have access to our trucking industry. It's good this is being acknowledged. Fixes need to happen fast. And this is from the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy. 2 minutes, 16 seconds. I probably won't play the whole video, but I will play enough that you get the gist of it.
We've heard from truckers and safety advocates and news reports that something was seriously wrong. It was alleged that the open border policies of the last administration has led to an exploitation of our nation's trucking licensing system. So today, I'm here to tell you after our audit that those reports, they're all true. What our audit has already discovered should anger every single American. So here's what we've learned. We just want to walk through it. First, our audit revealed a systemic breakdown among states to follow the law and issue licenses properly. States are failing to follow even the most basic procedures. We even uncovered widespread procedural errors, computer programming flaws, and a gross lack of oversight in the states that issue CDLs. This means that thousands of licenses that should never have been issued actually were issued. States are issuing licenses that extend months and even years beyond a driver's lawful presence in the US. This is a direct incentive to stay in our country illegally beyond their authorized work permit. They have driver's licenses.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there, Khalid, and we can talk through this a little bit. So I think the first event that really pissed people off was the truck driver from India who completely failed all of the testing in California. There were 12 road signs on an exam that he took. There was more to it than that, but there were 12 signs. He identified one correctly. They gave him a CDL. He was northbound on the Florida Turnpike, decides he's going to do a U-turn in the middle of the interstate. And so he's in the semi in the far right lane, and he turns like this to go the other way. Car behind him on the left goes underneath his trailer, kills 3 people instantly. And Gavin Newsom in California had blood on their hands for that. That guy should have never had that license. But then there's this huge influx of people coming forward and saying, hey, this is a lot bigger problem than you know it is. There are a ton of these people here that they're not even on green cards. They're not on visas. They've got CDLs and they're driving around the country. I mean, it's bad. And the reports that we're hearing from people now on a daily basis of almost getting taken out by them, and they pull off at the same exit. Maybe there's a Buc-ee's or something like that. And it's clearly people who are, not Americans, shouldn't be here, let alone have a CDL. It's bad stuff. I mean, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Cleve, but if you do, by all means, do so.
Let me explain how the visa scam works. I did a post on this maybe a month and a half ago on CommandEleven to help people understand how this works. What you have is an Indian that is inside, and I'll take India as an example because India and Pakistan, the game runs basically the same way. What you do is you have an Indian or a Pakistani inside the US who is a broker for jobs. He contacts an employer who's looking for an employee, and he says, okay, I can get you the resource, but I need a little bit of time. He kicks back to a travel agent in India or Pakistan or in another Middle Eastern country and says, okay, we have a job. It's in the UK, it's in the US, it's in the Arab states, and there's a dollar figure attached. A work permit for the US for someone who has basic skills is $10,000. That's what you pay the travel agent. They take your passport, they send the information to the US, they get you a work permit. You go to work for that Indian or Pakistani company or Arab company in the US. They farm you out. Whether you know what you're doing or not, whether you can speak a lick of English or not, it doesn't matter. They put you to work there. That is how these people are getting into the country. The number of Chinese people in the US right now driving trucks, they are not there to drive trucks. They are a layer that is there working, driving trucks, not understanding. We saw a horrific accident on, I think it was a Thursday episode that we did. A horrific accident with a Chinese driver driving a semi-truck. They are not there to drive trucks. They are there for another purpose. And that purpose will become clear once 9/11 2.0 starts, because they are the tech geniuses. They are the ones that can run cyber hacks, and to run them from inside the US is much more effective than doing it from China.
Yeah, well said, Khalid. So moving on to the next one, another post from Sarah here. Great. We will be told by CENTCOM that they killed another senior terrorist. Then find out 3 weeks later he's very much alive. This counterterrorism campaign is completely fraudulent at this point and should be defunded. According to Syrian media reports, the U.S. military launched a drone attack on targets on the outskirts of Syria's Idlib province today. So I have not studied up on that. I had a crazy busy day, as you know, Khalid. Fill in the blanks for me on that, please.
So what Jelani did, and this is really smart. I mean, this is like the mob using the police to take out their enemies. What he's doing is he's giving a list of his enemies to the U.S. and the U.S. is using drone strikes to take them out. They are all ISIS members, but a few weeks from now, you will find out the guy's still alive. And this has been normal practice. The same thing with Hamza bin Laden. I mean, the U.S. fully believes that Hamza bin Laden is dead. He's roaming around Afghanistan. He's roaming around Iran, and nobody knows that he's alive. When the British media took the MI6 report and published it, it infuriated the CIA. Because the CIA said, look, we're saying this guy's dead. How in the hell are you saying he's alive? And MI6 said, look, we're not hiding it anymore for you. He's alive. We know he's alive. We're not going to hide this anymore.
Yeah, it's sickening. So this is the last article shared tonight. Then we've got all the regular stuff, the hero of the day, etc. So you have to understand, Somalia government, which is backed by the Muslim Brotherhood, led by Hassan Mohammed, paid lobbyists to pitch to the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, to publish an op-ed after several meetings documented on the FARA website. The goal was to discourage the Trump administration from recognizing Somaliland. 6 months later, CFR published an op-ed pushing the narrative to U.S. policymakers and the Trump administration that pivoting to Somaliland does not mean the U.S. can wash its hands of Somalia. This argument has no real basis other than suggesting that if Somaliland is recognized, Somalia as a failed state will somehow fail again. At the same time, the Somali government, despite being anti-Israel, desperately sought to recognize Israel and join the Abraham Accords simply so long as the Trump administration did not recognize Somaliland. But they were ignored. You have to understand that major U.S. think tanks often peddle Muslim Brotherhood policies against the interests of U.S. national security. Let that sink in. So this is another one that I did not have time to study up on, Clede, but explain it, please.
Okay. Let me go back and point you again to Friday's episode that we did with John. John took Muslim Brotherhood apart. I mean, that was the first episode we've done with them. I'm going to do a series with John because the amount of information that he has on Muslim Brotherhood will shock the hell out of you. If you watch the Friday episode, you will go back and watch it 2 or 3 times to get all the information because it was rapid fire. I mean, this is how we work in our world. I mean, we all know these names. We know what's going on. So we kick information, it just registers and it goes. Somalia being supported by Muslim Brotherhood fully embedded inside the U.S. Now, when I say embedded, State Department, Department of Defense, U.S. think tanks, all have Muslim Brotherhood links. They have a lobbyist inside of those departments. All of your universities, all the top tier universities in the U.S. have been funded by Qatar to set up foundations, to run research, to do everything that supports what Qatar wants. And I'm going to go backwards and say, do you remember the statement I made? Qatar is the banker for all terrorist organizations. Now, when you keep that step in mind, you have to remember that anything Qatar is doing, it's doing on the signal of what Muslim Brotherhood tells you. That put money here, put money here, put money here, do this, do this. I now put Qatar on the same level as AIPAC.
So, you know, I spent a good portion of today shooting a video on communication options, especially SHTF comms, with Dr. Michael Fabian. As he's leaving, he says to me that his daughter's who's in the Guard has just been deployed to Qatar. And
Yeah.
he's like, this is not the part of the world I want my daughter to be in, but obviously she has a responsibility. You know, she swore an oath, but that's got to be tough for him. He's a good friend. He's a great guy. Stay tuned for that video this week. By the way, we're covering everything but shortwave HF, which will be in the subsequent video, but every type of comms you can imagine. So Khalid, that's it for the SITREP, but we're now at what is fast becoming one of my favorite parts of the entire podcast. I feel like John Madden. We are going to cover the Carnival Hero of the Day. Are you ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, go. I feel like I should be, you know, talking to you on the field, telling me that we're this close.
We've got to add John Madden at the end, going boom. That just it's the perfect piece to add.
I wouldn't argue with you on that whatsoever. So this is actually a really interesting one. This is a pretty cool hero of the day. No words needed, a true four-legged hero. 8 seconds. I'll probably play it twice because it's worth watching twice. Right there. That's a good dog.
That's a good dog. Yeah.
Gotta love it. All right. So the next one up is the story of the day, and surprise, surprise, submitted by Dale. Dale, the news machine. Dale's one of the guys on our Signal chat. He doesn't sleep. Khalid doesn't sleep either. I rarely sleep, but like I'll get up at 3:30 in the morning Eastern time, and he'll already have like half a dozen posts in there, for crying out loud. He's a machine, but he does a great job of sharing information with the rest of us. So I don't think people understand the magnitude of what just happened. POTUS is sending U.S. military troops to war-ravaged Portland, Antifa's main hub, to protect ICE facilities from endless attacks from Antifa. U.S. military and U.S. citizens is essentially the Insurrection Act. As for whether or not that's the actual legal avenue Trump utilizes to get troops to Dem-run cities like Portland, the end result is that of the Insurrection Act, whether it's been invoked or not. Antifa is a violent insurrection terrorist operation, and Trump is sending U.S. troops authorized with full force. This is the beginning of the dismantling of Antifa and the left-wing terrorist network nationwide. Trump is eliminating deep state brown shirts. It's happening. So no tears shed over that whatsoever. Conflicted question of the night up next. The airplane you stole lost 30% of its power in midair, and it's about to crash. Your only hope is to make the small aircraft lighter. You and your 6 buddies have 5 minutes to decide who to dump out. Fuel and supplies have already been dumped. 2 of you need to go in order to make the airplane stable, but there are no parachutes. The 2 who need to leave the plane will suffer an excruciating fall to their deaths. How would you handle this situation, and why? All right, since Jeff's not here with us tonight, he'll be back tomorrow night, by the way. You get first crack at this, Khalid.
Okay. From my point of view, first off, the heaviest people go off. If they're not flying the plane, they're the first ones off the plane.
Wait a minute, you're not fat shaming, are you?
No, not at all. Not
right. We have to maintain a high element of.
Yep.
We have to maintain DEI level of political correctness. Okay. So we have to talk bad about ourselves because we're males, and I'm a Caucasian male, so I'm Satan. That's why I'm wearing a red shirt tonight. We're coming out of the closet here.
We toss out. Well, look, the first step would be to throw out all of the luggage and any equipment you have that is heavy. Get that off the plane. Second, if you still can't stabilize the plane, then you look for the people that are the least helpful that you can use. Look
at Bruno's go.
Depends who's on board.
So the only person more active in our private Signal chat for Guardians is Bruno.
Yeah. And Bruno's got the best comments. He does have the best comments.
Oh, he's a comic, that's for sure.
You have to think of who is the most useful person, because if the plane's going down, you may not be able to save the plane. But that does not mean that you get rid of everybody. Anyone that can be helpful for you, if the plane goes down, you keep them on the plane. Anyone who cannot be helpful, and I'm really sorry for saying this, but give them the boot and let them off the plane. And those of you who've seen past broadcasts, you also know that I am a firm believer in battlefield executions. So it's not uncanny for me to go kick them off the plane and let them fall.
I appreciate that. So just before I answered from Larry Schuyler, this may sound like a duh question, but why don't you guys have the ears of President Trump? So Sarah now has the ear of Joe Kent, number one. Number two, I have multiple people that are acquaintances, friends, or co-workers of mine that are literally working with Trump on a daily basis. We worked with Tom Homan a year and a half ago, my group did, and we raised $350,000 inside of 3 weeks to put on this big bash at Mar-a-Lago. We were there. We were at Mar-a-Lago. It was a pretty exclusive, list of attendees. But now that Trump is back in office, to get through to President Trump is a big deal. Whereas before, I've been on the phone with Tom Homan before, and he's like, "Hey, Chris, I got to let you go. President Trump's calling me," and this is prior to the election. I used to laugh about it and say, "Okay, well, I'll let it slide this time." I mean, try not to do it again, though, Tom. But point being is we could get information to him pretty quickly in the past. Right now, he's very insulated. The guy works insane hours. We plant seeds with people who are in his orbit on a frequent basis. But here's the real answer to your question. Donald Trump has ordered his cabinet to go above and beyond for him to get at least one Nobel Peace Prize, preferably two during the second tenure, because Obama got one and he wants to beat Obama. So part of this is the old head in the sand deal where it's not happening. Just get me my Nobel Peace Prize. And that's starting to turn a little bit. Some of his lieutenants are starting to understand that. But really, he wants to go down as the greatest peace president in all time. So I'm a strong supporter of Trump. I voted for him 3 times. I've been to his home, etc. I've been on the red carpet with Donald Trump Jr. I've met Eric before, and I'm just the Forrest Gump of the business world. I'm never the smartest guy in the room, but I have, as of today, by the way, 22,733 contacts in my address book, all of whom are either friends, family, or people I've worked with during my career. So Patrick Byrne likes to say I'm a whole lot taller and better looking when I stand on my wallet. Well, I'm a whole lot taller and better looking when I stand on my Rolodex, because I don't have his level of money. But with that being said, just a couple house cleaning things. We'll wrap this up. If you go to survivaldispatchnews.com, or no, survivaldispatch.news, you don't even have to do the .com anymore, survivaldispatch.news. This is what it looks like when we're broadcasting. When we're not broadcasting, the SITREP will be at the top. We give a ton of information away for free. You get the weekly watch guide, you get the daily SITREPs, you get to see JJ Morris's videos. But if you sign up and help us defer expenses, which we appreciate very, very much, and it also makes you part of the mission to save our fellow Americans and friends of America as well. But $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, 2.5 months free. Get enrolled in SDENS. As I announced earlier, I'm going to fire up a Guardians group on the POC link phones. More on that in just a second, that you'll get access to. You get an invite to our super busy Signal chat, tons of intel, all 37 eMags free. They're normally $9.99 a piece, so $370 for free. And you get all of the sources for our SITREPs. Can't thank the guys at Carnivalt enough. These guys are our premium sponsor. We do not get paid affiliate money. We get a stipend from them, which is very much appreciated. This is an incredibly unique product, 100% American. The bags are made in America. The O2 absorbers are made in America. The meat is from American ranchers. There's no mRNA, no antibiotics, no histamines, no bullshit in any of their meat. So they just came out with these single servings this weekend. $79 for a box with 12 single servings inside of it. Originally, the idea is, wow, what a great prepper product. The problem is it's so convenient and tastes so good it gets eaten. Mike Glover, my business partner, says the same thing. He can't keep it. Every time they send us boxes of them, it all gets eaten. Use code EATMEAT, all one word. You get 10% off. And if your order is over $99, you get free shipping. The POC radios that I mentioned, and this will be the last plug for them tonight, are right here. There's a link down below. $399. So look right here. $399 US for a pair, going to $1,140 after the first 1,000 radios are sold. So Dr. Michael Fabian and I did a bunch of testing with them this weekend. We've got 4 of these guys. So this is a GMRS/FRS type radio, so you can communicate off the grid. It has what you would expect, about 1.5 mile range radio to radio for FRS, GMRS, if there's any types of obstructions. But this will access the LTE networks worldwide, multiple carriers. If you buy 2 for $399 right now, you can buy them in 4 and 6 packs. But if you buy 2 for $399, you'll never pay for the global coverage for the SIM card. Otherwise, you're paying $1,140 for a pair, and you're going to pay between $29 and $65 a year for the SIM card for GMRS stuff. This isn't the primary SHTF backup tool. It's one of a number of tools that should be in your toolbox if you can afford it. The video that's going to be published on Thursday that the doc and I shot today is going to cover everything but shortwave, high frequency. That's coming very soon. But we line up a bunch of things that we tested. We show you the radios. We talk about the prices. You don't have to have every piece of the puzzle that we have, because we're testing to save you the testing to make sure stuff works. But if you were to take 3 out of our top 7 choices, you're going to have the bases covered better than 99.999% of the people out there. So sorry to bore you with that stuff, Khalid. What I'd really like to do is when your mother comes to visit and then you bring her back here to the U.S., you need to have one of these. Your mother probably needs one. Your wife needs to have one, because here's a cool thing. I can hit this right now and check. And it just went off on that radio over there. That's worldwide. Yeah. Worldwide coverage and group coverage. So I'll get off of that one. Let me see what else we have to deal with before we wrap up. We've thanked everybody. Oh, I didn't answer the conflicted question. Man, this is a tough one. I want to go with the biggest people. I'm trying to be politically correct, not say fat people, but I said it anyway. The people who need 2 seats on the airplane, they got to go, because we might have to just turf one over if they take 2 seats, right? But in all seriousness, I would think that the people who offer the least to the group probably have to go. Yeah. In other words, I hate to say it, but if they're not bringing a tremendous amount of knowledge and physical, power and skills to the table, then those are probably the ones that need to go. But it's a brutal question. I can't imagine having to be, put in a position.
That's an impossible decision to make. Impossible decision to make.
Yeah, it's terrible. So we want to hear your answers by all means in the live chat. Other than that, we will be back tomorrow night. Khalid, Jeff, and Randy, myself at the regular time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be carrying on with our Long War series. So tomorrow night, the theme is hidden conflicts. So basically intelligence agencies, cartels, extremist cells, waging covert battles beneath the surface in this post-apocalyptic America after 9/11 2.0. And then Tuesday night, Khalid has his weekly set rep. And then I'm back again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with Khalid, Jeff, and Randy. Mike Glover will be with us on Wednesday per usual for our Long War series. But that's it. So between now and tomorrow night when we're back, if you could please like, share, comment, and subscribe, I would appreciate it. God bless America.
God bless America.
Enjoy the new closing video. It's a brand new one tonight.
If you see a faded sign on the side of the road that says, be sure to wear your kissing, dancing at 11. We're next to nothing, cause it's hot as an oven. The whole rally shimmies. I said the whole rally shimmies. The whole rally shimmies. Everybody's moving around and around and around and around.
Everybody's moving, everybody's grooving, baby.
Folks lining up on the side just to get down.
Everybody's moving, everybody's grooving, baby.
Funky little hat, funky little hat. Hop in my Chrysler, let's get to the rally. Looking for a big finale.